at the brink of death, suffering from a terminal illness. I accepted the system's transmigration mission. It said, as long as I raised the affection of my target to 100%, I would be reborn. So I spent 8 lifetimes, putting in all my effort, and finally raised the affection to 99%. However, what the system never expected was, when I opened my eyes, I said to it, I've decided to change my target, starting from 0. Give me a new person. The system strongly opposed, asking me if I had lost my mind. How could I give up at the last moment? But what the system didn't know was, in these 8 lifetimes, no matter what identity I took, Anna always recognized me, and her so-called nearly 100% affection was just a way of toying with me. So, this lifetime, I'll make her taste the feeling of being played with. Chapter 1. When I was called to the lake, a crowd of young men and women had already gathered, watching the scene with curiosity. Someone said, honestly, Anna Su's charm is just too much. There are always simps everywhere. These simps would give up their lives just to win Su's favor. Another person added, remember that simp Martin from half a year ago? He got burned to death, and now George is taking his place. Someone else chimed in, this George is even worse than the last 7. He'd even kneel just to have a meal with Miss Su. I had gotten used to hearing these rumors during the 4 years I was pursuing Anna. At first, it was embarrassing. It made me sad, hurt, and frustrated, but over time, I became numb to it. I squeezed through the crowd and walked up to Anna. She was gently comforting Makoto, but when she looked at me, her expression was cold. With a commanding tone, she said, it's been half an hour already. Why are you only here now? Is there anything more important than my words? I wiped the blood from my palms and explained carefully. The hospital is far, and I rushed over as fast as I could. There was even a car accident on the way. Anna didn't even wait for me to finish before cutting me off. No more excuses. The watch Makoto's mother bought him fell into the lake. Go and fish it out. The lake was covered in a thin layer of ice due to the cold. Even standing on the shore in a down jacket, my feet ached from the cold. I remembered the time I drowned, and my face turned pale. I sighed and said, it's so cold, and I still have a fever. If I go into that cold water, I might die. What kind of watch is it? I can buy a new one for young Master Ito. Is that okay? Makoto furrowed his brows and said, that was the only keepsake my mother left me. Anna clung to his arm, looking heartbroken. She glared at me and snapped, are you going or not? If you're not going, then don't even think about seeing me again. She could say it, and she could do it. The 3rd time I was pursuing her, she asked me to give all my design works to Makoto, but I refused. After that, she wouldn't see me. When my 6-month task deadline arrived, her favorability rating was negative. As punishment, I got into a car accident where my body was pierced by rebar. I bled out internally, and I survived for a whole day before finally dying. That was the most painful death I ever experienced. It terrified me. I turned pale, grabbed Anna's hand, and said, I'll go right now. Don't let me disappear. The system had told me that I needed to maintain a 99% favorability with her. Only then could I earn enough favorability to exchange for a new task target. I didn't hesitate any longer. I took off my down jacket, and amidst the crowd's jeers, I jumped into the lake. The water was freezing cold. Before I passed out, I thought I heard a worried female voice calling my name. It wasn't Anna. It was someone unfamiliar. When I woke up again, I was in the hospital. The moment I opened my eyes, I saw a message from Anna. She sent, now that you're awake, come home and make dinner for Makoto. He wants to eat your meat bun, seafood congee, and spicy fish. Chapter 2. Anna didn't accept my confession, but she moved in with me. She called our place home, but I preferred to call it a prison. I was mentally exhausted, so I called her. I said weakly, I went into the lake to retrieve the watch despite having a high fever. My body feels terrible now. If I don't rest, I might really die. Anna dismissed me. You've died 7 times already. What's one more? You'll just switch bodies and continue chasing me, won't you? I replied. But even if I can be reborn, the pain from sickness and death isn't fake. She snorted and said, you deserve it, George. When you used your pursuit task as an excuse to get close to me and deceive my feelings, you should have thought about this day. Don't make excuses to slack off. I'm coming to pick you up. Anna was always this willful and spoiled, never giving me a chance to negotiate. She hung up right after saying that. I stared at my phone, feeling heavy in my chest. I gritted my teeth and asked, System, can you start the 9th pursuit task early? I was already disillusioned with Anna and didn't want to continue this endless pursuit any longer. It was just too painful. The system replied, sorry, host, but that's not possible. Hang in there for another 10 days. I used to think time passed too quickly. I wanted it to slow down, just a little. That way, I'd have more time to pursue Anna and not face death so soon. But now, only 10 more days, and it felt longer than my entire life. Over an hour later, Anna arrived. She had actually been waiting outside the hospital room all this time. After George fainted and was sent to the hospital, she had stayed by his side. She left only when she noticed he was about to wake up. Not wanting him to think she cared too much for him, he only saw her as a pursuit target. So why should she give him her real heart? Anna looked at me with a mocking expression and asked, "Why that look? Do you think I made you fish out Makoto's watch to make you feel wronged? This is the punishment for your flirtations and messing around with women." I had long stopped caring about her opinion, but, afraid of losing her favor, I explained. "I never flirted with anyone." Anna thought about the time George and Willow were together and got angry. She asked, "Willow's skirt got caught on a car and she couldn't move. You helped her untangle it. Wasn't that flirting? If you didn't tempt her, would someone as cold as her have thrown herself into the lake to save you? So it was Willow who saved me." I paused for a moment and said, "I'm not close with her. We only spoke a few words at a party." "Don't." She rolled her eyes and interrupted. "Shut up. I don't care what you do with other women. Why haven't you gone home to cook for Makoto? Do you know how long he's been waiting for you while hungry?" I swallowed my words, and all I could do was apologize meekly. "I'm sorry. Being submissive would save me from the system's torment," she said. "What's the use of saying sorry? Come home with me right now." I sighed and said, "Fine." However, after several attempts, my hands were shaking, and I couldn't even sit up. Anna instinctively helped me, but with a sneer, she said, "Keep pretending. Keep pretending." A nurse passing by couldn't stand it and scolded her. "He has pneumonia and a high fever. Why do you want him to get up? Don't you know he's so weak he needs someone to feed him?" Anna's face turned red with embarrassment. A trace of regret flickered in her eyes, and she said, "Why didn't you say you were this sick? I thought you were just faking it again." I numbly said, "Sorry, it's my fault." In our relationship, the one who always had to lower his head was me. Anna was annoyed by my state. She frowned and stopped insisting that I cook, ordering takeout instead. She planned to feed me herself, but before she could feed me the first spoonful of kanji, Makoto called. Anna frowned and said, "What kind of cooking is this? You burned yourself." "Wait, I'm coming now." In her hurry, the hot porridge spilled all over me. I winced in pain, my face changing color. She didn't even look at me. Rushing out of the hospital room, Anna's best friend, Alicia, was waiting just outside the room. She observed everything quietly. "Anna, sometimes I really don't understand you. You clearly care about George, and you only see Makoto as an ordinary good friend. Why do you have to degrade George just for Makoto?" Chapter 3. Anna stopped in her tracks, her expression darkening. "What do you understand? When George first approached her, he pretended to love her, and she was completely fooled. But the second time, she realized he was only close to her for the task. She couldn't tell whether his love was real or not. Only when she saw him suffer for Makoto, risking his life and dignity just to please her, could she deceive herself into thinking that he truly loved her." Alicia sighed. "Aren't you afraid of what might happen to him? Afraid he'll lose heart and leave you for good? You might regret it later." Without a second thought, Anna replied, "He won't." She thought to herself, George had the system. He couldn't die. He would never leave her. Anna didn't intend to share her thoughts with Alicia, so she just said coldly, "Let's not talk about him. Makoto's been burned. Let's go." Back in the hospital room. In the end, I hired a nurse to help me clean up and get something to eat. Lying back in bed, I couldn't help but regret accepting the pursuit task for what felt like the 1,000th time. In my original world, I was a frail, sickly person who died at 18. I longed to live like a normal person, which is why I agreed to the system's task, but I never expected this would be where my real suffering began. My phone vibrated, interrupting my thoughts. I looked at the incoming call from Anna, feeling a surge of resistance, but I still answered it immediately. "Anna, is there something you need?" On the other end, Makoto's voice came through, full of malice. He laughed and said, "Not much. Just need you to kneel and bark like a dog, and roll around in the mud like a pig." I had endured countless humiliations and challenges during my 3 years, 11 months, and 15 days of pursuing Anna, but no matter how many times it happened, I couldn't get used to it. The words of insult were on the tip of my tongue, but I swallowed them back. Anna's harsh voice came through. "Makoto's talking to you. Are you mute?" I clenched my phone, feeling both angry and helpless. I fought to control my emotions and said, "Anna, I'm a living person too. Isn't it too much to humiliate someone like this?" She replied, "You don't listen to what I say. Fine. Don't bother coming to find me again." Without mercy, Anna ended the call. To be honest, I didn't want to see her again, but I still had to keep trying to please her. Only by maintaining her favor at 99% could I use it to switch to a new pursuit target in the 9th round. As long as I could leave her for good, I'd do anything. I gritted my teeth and called Anna back. I said, "Sorry, I was wrong earlier. I'll do what Ito said." Anna's cold voice replied, You should have agreed earlier instead of putting on this show. Turn on the camera. Let's get started. It took several deep breaths before I managed to say, okay, just hold on a little longer. Only 10 more days, and I'd be free of Anna for good. I turned on the camera and struggled to kneel on the ground. I fought against the overwhelming sense of shame rising within me, but Makoto's demands felt too humiliating to carry out. I couldn't do it. A burst of laughter came from the other side. Hurry up. What's taking so long? Amidst the noisy teasing, a soft, light voice suddenly cut through. The woman said, it's just a game. No need to go this far with the humiliation. Miss Sue, young Master Ito, you've gone far enough. Anna's face darkened, and through the screen, she said to me, you've really got Lou to speak up for you, haven't you? You're something else. Makoto frowned and said, I thought young Master Wong would cooperate with me, but now, this truth or dare game's ruined. If Martin hadn't been burned to death, he would have agreed. Anna hung up the call, then sent me several messages. George, why did Willow speak up for you? You came close to me just for the systems task, but do you like someone else? Is it Willow? You have 5 minutes to explain. Even through the screen, I could feel her irritation, but Willow and I had barely met a few times and exchanged no more than 3 sentences. What was there to explain? I felt incredibly frustrated but didn't want to lose Anna's favor, so I explained a whole bunch. It took an hour before Anna replied. Stay away from Willow from now on. Then she added, even without Willow, I wouldn't make you kneel and bark like a dog. Makoto was just messing around with you. That was her way of letting it go, but I didn't believe the second part for a second. In her eyes, Makoto's every demand had to be met. This wasn't the first time I'd been humiliated by them. I threw my phone aside, slumping down on the floor, staring blankly at the fruit knife next to me. The system's voice suddenly rang in my head. Host, don't think about using suicide to start the task early. Suicide will be seen as avoiding the task. After death, you'll be resurrected and continue the task, suffering one more painful death. Chapter 4. I chuckled. You think too much. System. I've endured for 4 years, and with only 10 days left, I'll make it through. I forced a smile, but there was nothing but sorrow in my eyes. In my original world, I had friends and family, yet these 4 years had been filled with nothing but humiliation. Now, I only hoped that in the remaining 10 days, Anna would stay away from me. But life doesn't always go as planned. After 3 days in the hospital, my body finally started to feel better when Anna sent me an address. Along with it, she wrote just 2 words, come over. When I arrived, she had just finished a matchmaking session with Makoto. Her brows were furrowed, her face dark. She said, Makoto, do you really not understand how I feel about you? Makoto replied, Anna, you've never been this willful. What's going on with you? Makoto frowned, looking utterly helpless. Anna deflated. She said, all right, I get it. Makoto, I won't push you anymore. Sorry. They embraced tightly. I stood there, watching. In the past, I might have felt heartbroken, but now, all I felt was exhaustion and numbness. Anna began listing all the flaws of the girl she had been introduced to, then sent Makoto off in a car before turning back to look at me. She asked, why aren't you jealous or angry anymore? Her tone was clearly upset. I froze and asked, what? She said, I've been nice to Makoto, and you haven't gotten mad. In the past, when I left you to accompany Makoto, you'd get furious and argue with me. Now, it's like nothing's wrong. Anna stared at me, proud yet anxious. I lowered my gaze, hiding the sarcasm in my eyes. I said, because I've figured it out. Who you like, or who you're nice to, doesn't matter. What matters is that I like you. And that's enough. Really? She looked at me suspiciously. I only replied, yes, but of course, that was a lie. I only said it to prevent her from losing favor with me. Anna snorted coldly. You're finally getting it. Come with me. All right. I followed her into the car, silently staring out the window, lost in thought. At the beginning, I had truly loved Anna. When I first started the pursuit task, I was just entering university, and I was her classmate. Anna was the school beauty and goddess, and she treated me very kindly. When a fellow female student fell ill during our New Year's Eve performance, she volunteered to take her place and play the piano. When I got injured during a basketball match, she was the one who took me to the hospital and stayed by my side until I recovered. Having been in and out of hospital rooms since childhood, I had never really interacted much with the opposite sex, so it wasn't surprising that I developed feelings for her. However, just when I had fallen for her deeply, I found out that she was only using me to make Makoto jealous. Makoto, who had been fostered by the Sue family since childhood, was Anna's childhood friend, and he was the one she truly loved. When I first learned the truth, I was in agony. I had an argument with her, but I couldn't let go of my feelings for her. But after 4 years of being tormented by Anna, dying 7 times, even if I had once loved her, all that remained now was hatred and pain. At least, Soon, I would be free from her. The car stopped at the entrance of an upscale club. Anna went to her exclusive private room. She was in a bad mood, so she ordered a lot of alcohol and insisted that I drink with her. Every time she faced setbacks with Makoto, she would do this. I held my glass and explained, I still haven't fully recovered from my pneumonia. I need to take medicine. It's not a good idea to drink now. But Anna got angry. She said, George, is this what you call love? You won't even drink a single glass. Your love is really cheap. You've been hanging around me for so long. Do you love me for real? Or is it just for some damn task? By the end, her voice was hoarse, her eyes bloodshot. Anna thought, was George just waiting for her to reach 100% favorability, complete the task, and then he could leave her forever? Chapter 5. I was overwhelmed with disgust, but for the sake of maintaining her favor, I had to play along. I said, I'll drink right now. It's not the task, it's true love. The lie that even I found revolting escaped my lips as I raised the glass and drank it all in one go. The alcohol burned fiercely, causing a spasm in my stomach. The pain made me wince uncontrollably. Anna finally smiled and handed me another glass, saying, drink up, drunk. She started mumbling. She said, George, do you think he really loves me? He said I'm excellent, that I'm his type, but he approached me with other motives, and I can't tell if he really loves me. Every time I see him with other women, even if it's just a few words or a smile, I can't stand it. I don't know what to do with him. Anna, too drunk to care, revealed her true feelings, but she only spoke of him, without naming him. She didn't want George to know that the person she cared about was him. Having been the school goddess since childhood, Anna had always had people chasing after her. She couldn't stand loving someone who didn't love her back. Even worse, she couldn't accept that the person she loved only saw her as part of a task, something to be discarded once the task was complete. She wouldn't let George succeed in his pursuit. That way, even if George didn't love her, he would have no choice but to stay by her side forever. My head was spinning, my stomach churning, and I clung to the trash can, vomiting uncontrollably. Suddenly, Anna leaned in and hugged me. She said, George, thank goodness you'll never leave me, or I'd really go crazy. I lowered my gaze, suppressing the sarcasm in my eyes. Who says I won't leave? It was only because her favorability towards me was too low after 7 rounds of pursuit that I couldn't change the target and leave. Anna didn't hold me for long, though, as Makoto called her. Anna said, Makoto, you want to eat the food I make? I'll bring him over. She had just been heartbroken and drunk because of her matchmaking with Makoto, but now she was suddenly cheerful. She gave me a hangover pill and told me to take a shower and change clothes. She said, Makoto doesn't like the smell of alcohol. You better clean yourself up. Don't ruin his appetite. I was already weak, and she suddenly shoved me. I staggered and almost tumbled down the stairs. I gripped the railing tightly, gritting my teeth and said, you should have pushed harder. By now, I would have probably fallen and died. Anna was startled but didn't lower her pride to apologize. She said, a normal person would die, but you won't. Who told you to be so fussy? In her eyes, my death was the least of her concerns. It didn't even matter as much as Makoto eating dinner. I felt a wave of sorrow for my past self and said, yeah, I also look forward to dying soon. Once I die, I can finally leave you for good. She snorted coldly and said, stop trying to scare me with that. When you were drunk, you told me I was your pursuit target, and even if you die, you'll be revived to come back to me. Her words agitated me. She bent down, pointed to the jade pendant around her neck, and said, see this, no matter what happens to you, I'll always recognize you by this. The jade pendant swayed gently, glowing as it came closer to me, casting light on my pale face. Actually, when I first pursued Anna, she was still kind to me. Her favorability reached 95%, and I almost succeeded, but I died saving her during an earthquake. The second time I pursued her, she got me drunk and asked, are you Gu Nianbai? Gu Nianbai was the name I had in my first pursuit. I was going to deny it, but Anna, with tears in her eyes, said, you don't look like him, and you're not related to his family or friends. But when the jade pendant lit up, I knew you were back. If it really is you, please tell me the truth. You don't know. After Gu Nianbai died, I've had nightmares every night. At that time, I loved her deeply and didn't want to see her sad, so I admitted it all. But after that, she hated me for deceiving her feelings, calling me an immortal monster. Her attitude toward me grew increasingly hostile, and she didn't treat me as human anymore. Thinking back on it all, my heart ached painfully. Chapter 6. Anna's expression was filled with nothing but indifference and impatience. She shoved me into the bathroom and said, hurry up and get ready. Once I finished, we got into the car, and for the entire ride, neither of us spoke a word. Upon reaching the villa, I didn't even have time to rest before I had to quickly prepare ingredients and cook. After struggling for 3 hours, finally making a whole spread, Makoto said, Anna, I don't want to eat Lu cuisine anymore. Sichuan food is better, Anna replied. Okay, I'll have George make it. Anna was always so patient with him. She smiled and lay in his arms watching TV, casually ordering me to dump the food and remake the Sichuan dishes. I replied, okay. I dazedly acknowledged her order and went to the kitchen. As soon as I entered, Anna released Makoto and frowned, glaring at me with a heavy expression. Makoto, witnessing this, clenched his fists. I was still recovering from pneumonia, but the constant exertion caused my fever to spike, and my body became weak and limp. In a moment of carelessness, I cut my hand with the kitchen knife, blood staining the cutting board. Coincidentally, Makoto walked in. He frowned and said, Anna, I heard that young Master Wang has been playing around with women. He might have some infectious disease. Is he jealous of us? Did he intentionally put blood in the food to infect me with some dirty illness? Anna had just seen pictures of me with other women on Makoto's phone, and she was feeling agitated. She coldly said, George, if you don't want to cook, you can refuse. Is there a need for such tricks? I covered my bleeding hand, my expression blank as I explained. I just accidentally cut my hand. I didn't mean to. She snapped. Shut up, get out. I don't want to see you here anymore. Anna angrily interrupted me and kicked me out. She was starting to feel like a fool. She was so close to other men, but George showed no signs of jealousy. He was relaxed and smiling with other women, yet when it came to her, he always wore a lifeless expression. George clearly didn't love her, did he? And yet here she was, the foolish one, knowing George's love was fake, but still drowning in it, unable to escape. I had no strength due to illness, and I collapsed onto the floor, twisting my ankle, but Anna didn't even glance back. She closed the door in front of me. Outside, the snow was falling heavily. The snowflakes, originally pure white, turned into a muddy mess on the ground. I limped in the cold, shivering as I hugged myself tightly. It's okay. Only 7 more days. It will all be over. I desperately tried to comfort myself, forcing a smile. Everything would get better. By the time I reached the hotel, I was coughing uncontrollably from the cold. Just as I lay down after checking in, Anna called. She asked, who allowed you to leave? Are you planning on freezing to death outside? I didn't want to argue, so I casually said, it's too cold outside. I needed a place to stay. She replied, I need to talk to you. Come back now. She hung up after giving the order. That was how she always was, doing whatever popped into her head, never caring about anyone else's feelings. I took a deep breath, suppressing all the negative emotions, and hailed a taxi back to the villa. When I arrived, Anna didn't even let me in. She extended her hand and said, that pair of rings you always carry with you, Makoto really likes them. Hand them over. Consider it your apology gift for messing up the kitchen with your blood. My expression froze. Those rings were made by my mom before she passed. They were for my future marriage. They were the only things I brought from the original world. It was because of those rings that I had managed to hold on until now. Anna sneered. You keep saying you love me, but now you can't even give me a pair of rings that were left by a dead person. Is this how you show your love? Chapter 7. No need to make so many excuses. Are you going to give it to me or not? My face was pale, but I remembered what my mom told me before she passed. Son, all I want is for you to live a healthy and peaceful life. I took out the rings, gave them one last reluctant glance, and handed them over to Anna. I said, I'll give you whatever you want. Anna took the rings, and her expression softened. She casually said, for tomorrow's birthday banquet, Makoto has a date. You'll be my date. But since Makoto's staying over at our place tonight, you'll have to sleep outside. I don't want Makoto to misunderstand our relationship. Understood. Makoto shouted Anna's name from inside, and she immediately went in. Once again, I was locked out of the room. There was no sadness or heartbreak, just exhaustion and numbness. In the long, dark night, I stood on the roadside, shivering as I waited for a cab. I found myself praying over and over. Please, let time pass faster. I couldn't take Anna anymore. I went back to the hotel, barely able to stay awake, and fell into a deep, restless sleep. The next morning, Anna called me back early to change into a suit for the banquet. She was holding her phone, her expression growing darker by the minute. I casually glanced at her phone screen and saw a chat with Makoto. Makoto wrote, Anna, I'm wearing the silver gray dress you gave me. Do you think it looks better with Miss Wan? My mom says Miss Wan is great in every way and wants me to marry her. I think she's great too. What do you think, Anna? Anna put her phone away. Her pretty face stiffened as she snapped at me. You're supposed to be my date, but you're staring off like that. You can't even compliment the new dress I'm wearing. You won't even offer me any emotional support. You're such a waste of space. She was venting her frustration with Makoto onto me. I had to maintain her good opinion, so I didn't want to argue. I just let her words slide. In her eyes, everything I did was wrong. I patiently complimented her a few times, and once I calmed her down, I went back to trying on the suit. Looking at myself in the mirror, I saw the dark blue suit I was wearing, which reminded me of the one I wore in my first life. I muttered to myself, "This one fits pretty well." I turned to look at Anna, but when she saw me, she froze for a moment. Her ears turned red, and she quickly turned away, her voice stiff as she said, "It's acceptable." I thought I must have been sleep-deprived to have imagined seeing affection in her eyes. The system always said her affection for me was at 99%, meaning she loved me deeply, couldn't live without me, but in reality, as long as she didn't torment me, it was a win. She rolled her eyes and said, "Stop daydreaming and hurry up." Makoto and Maria had already arrived, and Anna was in a hurry, pushing me into the car. Both Anna and I stood out with our appearances, and as soon as we arrived at the birthday banquet, we drew countless stares, but Anna ignored everyone, heading straight for Makoto. "Makoto, these are the rings you like. Here." Before handing them over, she glanced at me, seeing that I was once again spacing out and not even looking at her. Her gaze darkened. Makoto said, "Thanks, Anna, but I heard these are young Master Wang's mother's keepsakes. Isn't it inappropriate to just give them to me?" His eyes gleamed with smugness. Anna sneered, "If you can even accept his things, that's his honor." She said this without any consideration for how I might feel. Completely indifferent to me, I kept my eyes down, gripping my hands tightly, pretending I didn't hear. Anna grabbed Makoto's hand with a flirtatious look. She said, "Makoto, anything you want, I'll give it to you." Maria can never compare to me in this. Makoto, grinning with pride, replied, "You're my sister, and Maria is the one I'm going to marry. Why compare?" Anna gave a perfunctory nod. Seeing me spaced out, she showed no desire to act anymore. Soon, someone came to talk to her. As she walked away, whispers of mockery surrounded me. Someone said, "I've never seen someone so shameless to please a woman. He's even giving away his mother's keepsakes." Another person commented, "What's this? Miss Su made him jump into a lake to fetch Ito's watch, and he didn't even hesitate to do it. If I had a son like that, I'd be dead from anger." I was sickened by the gossip and wanted to leave, but Makoto caught up with me. He said, "How come you guys are all like lapdogs, wagging your tails and kissing Anna's ass, unable to shake her off? You really think Anna lives with you because she likes you? She's just using you to make me jealous because she saw me on a blind date." Makoto, who had been carefree in front of Anna, now showed nothing but malice. Chapter 8. I nodded and said, "Yeah, I know." So, I had already given up on Anna long ago, but Makoto was relentless. He sneered, "You've been carrying that pair of rings around all the time, thinking they're some precious treasure." I casually mentioned I wanted them, and Anna just handed them over. Who knew they were relics from the dead? It's so unlucky to even think about it. Makoto pulled out the rings and threw them out the window. My face turned pale in an instant. I shouted, "Stop." Outside the window was a cliff, and below was the river. If the rings were thrown out, they would be lost forever. I lunged forward to grab them back. Makoto, however, shoved me to the ground and sat down with a loud shout, "Anna, young Master Wang said I'm not worthy of those rings." He took them from me and threw them away, and even tried to push me off the building. I was so scared, I almost never saw you again. I turned around and saw Anna, her face flushed red with anger. I scrambled to my feet, trying to explain quickly, "Anna, I didn't push him. He threw away my mother's keepsakes." And before I could finish, Anna slapped me hard across the face. She said, "George, how dare you touch Makoto?" Anna thought to herself, "How dare George deceive her feelings and hurt the people she cares about?" I bit my lip, holding back my emotions, and said, "That's not what happened." She shouted, "Don't you dare lie." Anna slapped me again. I pressed my swollen face, suppressing the rage boiling inside, my expression devastated. I said, "Anna, you've been humiliating me again and again just because I once liked you. Is this funny to you?" Anna's face grew colder. She replied, "You don't even deserve to say you like me. When you say it, it makes the word feel dirty. You say you like me, but you're out there trying to contact Willow. Do you really think she'll ever be interested in you?" I broke down, but I only wanted to thank Willow for saving me. I was telling the truth, but Anna didn't believe a word of it. She turned and walked towards Makoto, showing him concern as she helped him up. She said, "Don't worry, Makoto, I'll make George pay for this." Makoto said, "It's all right, Anna. Young Master Wang only insulted me a little, threw the rings, and pushed me. It's not that bad." Makoto's eyes were red, as if I had bullied him. Anna said, "You're just too kind-hearted. That's why people take advantage of you." Anna supported Makoto as they walked toward me. Her tone was cold as she said, "You'd better pray that Makoto is okay." After that, she hurriedly left. As Makoto passed by, he intentionally shot me a smug smile. Guests around us whispered and pointed. Someone said, "Not only is he shamelessly clinging to Miss Su, but now he's also being malicious and hurting young Master Ito." Vile and despicable. No wonder Miss Sue can't stand him. He's pretty handsome, but how can he be so mean-spirited? Before I could even defend myself, I was kicked out of the Sue family estate. This place was on a hillside, and it was Sue's private property. Without an invitation, no ride-sharing service could even enter. I was left wearing a thin suit and dress shoes, shivering in the bone-chilling wind as I walked down the mountain. My feet were bleeding from the rough terrain. By the time I reached the foot of the mountain, a car suddenly sped toward me. Through the car window, I saw a group of burly men inside, and I felt uneasy, instinctively running back. But no one can outrun a car. The vehicle chased after me, and before I could react, someone jumped out quickly. A blow to the back of my head sent me falling to the ground, and everything went black. When I woke up again, it was already the next morning. I was thrown onto the floor of a private room, surrounded by 6 or 7 men who were clearly up to no good. At the front of the group stood Makoto. Chapter 9. Master Ito. He's awake! Someone shouted. Makoto walked over, grabbed me by the collar, and punched me. Damn it. I really don't know what kind of magic potion you've been feeding Anna. Those other simps, with just a word from Anna, they'd be sent to die. But you, yesterday at the birthday party, you hurt me. When I told Anna to get rid of you, she wouldn't even do that. The slap to my face stung painfully. I looked at Makoto, not surprised at all. It almost felt expected. I was furious and scared, trying to control my emotions. I said, Master Ito, there's no need to rush me out. In a few days, I'll leave, and I won't ever show up in front of you or Anna again. Before I could finish, another punch landed. Makoto gritted his teeth. Do you think I'm an idiot? With one word from Anna, you'd jump into a lake in the middle of winter. How could a simp like you leave voluntarily? He signaled to the men around him. He said, don't do anything else. Just ruin him. You know what I mean. I want to see if Anna still wants him when he's turned into a eunuch. With that, Makoto left. He could have found people to beat me up until I was crippled or dead, but he specifically wanted to destroy my dignity as a man. He hated me with a passion. I gritted my teeth in fury, trying to escape while Makoto was distracted. But someone kicked me to the ground. I crashed onto the floor, my teeth hitting my lip, blood filling my mouth. I couldn't even get up. Someone yanked me up, forcing me to look up. The men smiled and said, your name is George, right? Don't say we're bullying you. Master Ito said we're allowed to let you make 3 calls to Miss Sue. She's in the next room. If you can get her to come save you, we won't hurt you today. The lead fatman shoved a phone into my hands and said, call. I looked at the pre-entered number. The pain in my body made me more awake. Compared to the crazy Anna, calling the police seemed more reliable. I pressed 110 when the men weren't looking, but before the call could connect, they noticed. Damn it, you think you're smart? A flurry of fists and kicks followed. My body felt like it was about to fall apart. I curled up on the ground, begging them to stop. 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 I'll call Anna right now. The phone was shoved back into my hands. I wiped the blood from my mouth and sat up to call Anna. The first time, no one picked up. The second time, still no answer. On the third try, the men had already started to move closer to hold me down. I had pursued Anna 7 times, enduring countless torments, but to suffer such humiliation now, I was on the verge of breaking. I muttered to myself, please pick up, Anna, please, pick up the phone. Maybe my desperate prayer worked, because Anna finally answered. She asked, what is it? I shouted, Anna, help, I'm in the next room. They've tied me up and are going to castrate me. Anna laughed loudly on the other end. Don't be ridiculous, George. You sound so funny. Are you a cat? Are they going to take your balls? If you were a cat, I'd believe you. I was speechless. I said, word by word. I'm not joking. It's true. If you don't believe me, come to the next room and see for yourself. But Anna wasn't worried at all. She laughed even more happily. Her voice was softer than usual. Come on. You're just upset because you know I'm going to confess to Makoto today. Are you jealous? Trying to cause trouble? I was completely losing it. I shouted. I'm not. I swear. Anna, please. Just 3 minutes. Just 3 minutes. And, before I could finish, Anna interrupted me. She said, stop joking. It's really not funny. George, you were bullying Makoto at the birthday party yesterday, and now you want to ruin his birthday. You can be jealous, but not like this. The phone was on speaker, and everyone could hear. The men around me gathered closer, holding my legs down as they pulled out scissors. The phone was tossed aside. I had never felt so hopeless in my life. I screamed in rage, get away from me, Anna. I'm begging you, please, save me. The phone hadn't hung up yet, and Anna's voice still lingered on the line. She said, wow, you're good. You sound just like the day I sent our cat to get neutered. Of course, it didn't happen in the end. All right, stop with the act. After the birthday party, I'll come find you. The call ended. My heart felt like it had been ripped out, and I struggled with all my might. I kicked the man holding the scissors with my left foot, then kicked the cabinet with my right. The vase on top fell, hitting the man holding my leg on the head. The others were startled. "Boss, are you okay?" I took the opportunity to break free from their hold, pulled up my pants, and ran toward the exit. "Anna." The door to the next room was open. I shouted loudly, hoping to get her attention. She was surrounded by bodyguards, and there were so many people in the room, surely they could save me. But she was just smiling at Makoto, looking happier than I had ever seen her. She didn't even glance at me. The fat man, now covered in blood, had chased after me. He cursed, "Damn it, you dare to hurt me. I'm not only going to ruin you, I'm going to make a freak show video and let everyone see it." The men closed in, and I was backed into a corner, barehanded. I couldn't even fight one of them off. So, I instinctively glanced back, asking the system in my mind, "If I jump off the building now, is it considered suicide?" It replied, "No, it's not." I sighed with relief. Good. I had a hidden camera in my cinnabar bracelet, recording the truth of Makoto's self-directed drama at the birthday party, and his plan to ruin me. I took one last look in Anna's direction. Then without hesitation, I jumped over the railing. The drop felt unbearable, and the pain was excruciating, but as I fell, I smiled. Anna. I was finally free of her. From now on, in this life and the next, I would never see her again. Chapter 10. Anna was about to give Makoto the carefully prepared gift when an unsettling feeling tightened in her chest. It felt as though something very important was about to leave her forever. "What's wrong, Anna?" Alicia, holding her daughter, asked curiously. Anna replied, "Nothing." She furrowed her brow, her mind tangled in an inexplicable restlessness. Alicia, while comforting her daughter, spoke softly. "You're upset about George again, aren't you? I'm going to say something blunt. You shouldn't have used Makoto to provoke him. You used Makoto to provoke George, Martin, and several other suitors you care about. But who's left? You're going about this all wrong." Anna was frustrated. "What do you know?" She couldn't tell Alicia that all those 8 people were actually the same one. And she certainly couldn't mention the system task. Alicia raised an eyebrow. "Well, I've known my husband for 2 years, and our daughter is already 1. You should treat the person you love sincerely, not like this." Anna thought about how she and George had been tangled up for 4 years, and their relationship only seemed to worsen. It left a bitter taste in her heart. Looking at Alicia's obedient and adorable daughter only made her feel more bitter. If she and George hadn't fallen out, they would have a child by now. Anna sighed. "Forget it. I'll go give Makoto his gift." She stiffly changed the subject, but Alicia's words still echoed in her mind. Maybe she should just make George her boyfriend. At least she could control how much she liked him, and as long as the pursuit wasn't completed, he could never leave her. With that thought, Anna pushed down her complex emotions, found Makoto, who was looking particularly handsome today, and handed him his birthday gift. She said, "Makoto, happy birthday." He opened the gift box, revealing a car key and a watch. A chorus of admiration erupted in the room. Someone said, "Wow, that's the most expensive Bugatti, and the latest Rolex." "Makoto, I wish I had a rich sister too." Someone else added, "George isn't here today. If he knew that after all that time he spent simping for Miss Sue wouldn't even look at him. But she's giving Master Ito such an expensive car. Wouldn't he be furious?" The group laughed and teased. "Give him a kiss." Anna, being the only daughter in her family, had always seen Makoto as an older brother. Hearing the teasing, she smiled lightly, and with a gentle brush of her cheek against Makoto's, she played along. The action was somewhat ambiguous, and Makoto's eyes filled with desire as he looked at her. Anna didn't notice his thoughts, her mind consumed with George. Once the birthday party ended, she'd agree to be George's girlfriend, and he'd probably go crazy with happiness. Makoto gazed at her, deeply. "Anna." In the next moment, he lowered his head, smiling as if to return her kiss. This time, he aimed for her lips, but Anna hurriedly moved away, and he only kissed her cheek. Around them, the air was filled with teasing laughter. Anna frowned, but didn't say anything. After the birthday song and cake cutting, she privately spoke to Makoto. "Makoto, we've grown up. We're not kids anymore. We should avoid acts like kissing in the future." Makoto's expression stiffened slightly, and he asked, "Anna, don't you remember? We agreed before to pretend to be ambiguous, to provoke the men who've deceived your feelings." Anna replied, "We don't need to do that anymore." Makoto's expression changed. His face grew desperate. He asked, "Why?" Anna said, "After all, you have a fiancé now. It's not good for our reputations." But Makoto replied, "What does that matter? As long as it helps you. These things are trivial. I don't mind." Anna frowned, not wanting to explain too much, but since she had always seen Makoto as a brother, he was an exception. She said, "You don't mind, but I do. I used you to provoke George, but it hasn't improved our relationship. If anything, it's only made it worse." Maria's a good person. You should treat her well. Don't worry about George and me. Anna, unwilling to argue further, turned and walked away. George said he was in the next room. The birthday song had already ended, and it was time for her to see him. She would tell him that since Makoto rejected her confession, she had decided to be his girlfriend, but first, he needed to apologize to Makoto for what he had done at the birthday banquet. Makoto watched her leave, and his grip on the glass in his hand tightened to the point where it almost shattered. He gritted his teeth, muttering, "Anna, why can't you see me?" Fortunately, that idiot jumped off the building and died. From now on, it'll only be me by your side. Anna, oblivious to his thoughts, walked straight to the next room. Inside, there was a crowd. One group was the police, the other was a group of rough men. Pressed to the ground, the floor was covered in blood. Seeing this, Anna's mind immediately flashed back to George's cries for help. Her unease grew, and her face turned pale. She asked in a trembling voice, "Where's George? What happened here?" Chapter 11. The young police officer at the front didn't answer directly. Instead, he questioned Anna. "How do you know George is here? What's your relationship with him?" "What relationship?" Anna had lived with George for half a year, but to the outside world, George was just a suitor. She had never even admitted that George was her boyfriend. Anna was momentarily speechless. The young officer furrowed his brow and said, "If you're not related, then don't ask. We can't disclose anything about his case. Please leave." Before he could finish, his superior slapped him on the back of the head and said, "Don't talk nonsense. Step aside." Turning to Anna, the superior apologized. "Sorry, Miss Sue. This is a new recruit, and he doesn't know you." He quickly summarized. About half an hour ago, these men had some personal issues with George. They kidnapped him, intending to, well, let's say they planned to abuse him. George managed to break free, and in the panic, he jumped from the building and died. The 6 men, realizing it had gone too far and that someone had died, called the police and turned themselves in. He struggled to articulate the details, but this kind of bizarre incident was hard for anyone to believe. Even the police. However, the high-end club emphasized privacy, and the hallways had no surveillance cameras. This was based on the suspect's confession and the fingerprints on George's legs, which helped reconstruct the events. Anna walked over to see George's body. He had fallen from the 10th floor, and his body was unrecognizable. This wasn't the first time Anna had witnessed his death, but it still hurt terribly. To die in such a manner must have been humiliating for him, right? Makoto, holding back his excitement, pulled her arm and said, "Let's go, Anna." George was unlucky to encounter such a rare event. "It's no one's fault." Anna's voice trembled, "But I could have saved him." George had called her for help, but she thought he was faking it. Alicia patted her shoulder. "The dead are gone. George loved you so much, he wouldn't want you to be sad." Makoto hinted. "Yes, Anna. It just wasn't meant to be with you and George. Your true soulmate is someone else." Anna nodded. Let's go." She took a long, deep look at George's body, exhaled, and distanced herself from the overwhelming guilt and pain. She tried to comfort herself. If not for this, George might have never become a man. It was better that he died now. If he had stayed alive in that state, she wouldn't have been able to accept it mentally. After all, George wasn't really dead. Once he revived, he'd come back for her. The next time he asked for help, she'd go to him immediately. Anna and the others left the police station. Alicia asked with concern, "Anna, do you want to go home and rest for a while?" "No need. Today's Makoto's birthday, and I can't spoil his mood," Anna said without hesitation. Alicia's expression grew complicated. "You seem to care a lot about George, but now that he's dead, you're reacting like this." "Anna, sometimes I think you're really cold-blooded." Anna had no intention of explaining. She simply got into the car. Only she knew that George would come back to her side. Makoto trailed behind her, glancing at his phone. There was a single message in the chat. "George's bracelet has been destroyed." Makoto raised an eyebrow, relieved, and deleted the message. Back at the birthday party, everyone had already heard the news about George's death. Many were gossiping. Someone said, "If George knew, he'd be furious to see Miss Sue still partying after his death." Another person replied, "Miss Sue never liked him. It was his own fault for chasing after her. Dying like that was his own doing." Anna had heard such words about George many times before, and she didn't pay them any mind. Makoto wrapped his arm around her waist, chatting and laughing with others. Anna held her wine glass, not listening to anything, her eyes scanning the room. Maybe George had already revived and was among them. She wondered what he looked like this time. Chapter 12. Makoto asked, "Anna, are you looking for someone?" Seeing that her attention wasn't on him, Makoto felt a bit frustrated. Anna replied casually, "No." Her answer was vague, but her gaze still swept the room, restless. Normally, Anna was proud and didn't pay much attention to others, but today, whenever someone called out, "Miss Sue," she would immediately respond. Yet, when she noticed that the jade pendant around her neck wasn't glowing, and those people didn't resemble George at all, her irritation grew. In the past, George would always return to her side within half a day after he died. Why was it different this time? Was it because she ignored his call for help and he was disappointed in her? Whatever. She decided that when she saw him next, she'd give him a warm smile and apologize. For the next 3 days, Anna agreed to attend every gathering she was invited to. She answered every call, even from unknown numbers. But there were sycophants, flatterers, business collaborators, those seeking to gain favor, and even scam callers. But there was no George. When Anna heard about his death and saw his body, she didn't think much of it. But now, after 3 days, he still hadn't come to find her. Her unease started to grow, and she was truly anxious now. Anna went to all of George's favorite spots, his beloved quiet bar, the riverside where he liked to walk when he was troubled, his favorite grilled fish restaurant, the basketball court where he went to vent his emotions. She searched for a month. Every time she saw someone who resembled George even a little, she ran up to them and shouted, "George!" But each time, the person turned around, showing a completely unfamiliar face and a confused expression. "Who are you? You must have mistaken me for someone else." Makoto had been following Anna this whole time, nearly driven mad with jealousy. At Lou's welcome banquet, he frowned and said, "Anna, what's going on with you? George is dead, you know. He's not around anymore, but I will always be by your side." He pulled Anna into an embrace, but she pushed him away, her voice sharp. "You don't understand. Don't say nonsense." She thought to herself, everyone might leave her, but George would never. Alicia gently advised, "Anna, George really is gone. Maybe you're under a lot of pressure. Would you like to see a psychologist?" "No need, I'm fine," Anna replied dismissively, her frustration growing. Normally, after George's death, she only needed to wait for him to return to her. But this time, for the first time, she couldn't find him. Even if she hadn't helped him when he called for help, it had been a month. He should have gotten over it by now. She hadn't held it against him for teasing Makoto at the birthday party, yet he seemed to be picking a fight with her now. When she finally saw him, she was going to scold him badly. As this thought crossed her mind, the jade pendant on her neck suddenly lit up. Her frustration and anxiety vanished in an instant, and she turned around, excited. But the man walking towards her was a stranger, a handsome man she didn't recognize. The closer he got, the brighter the jade pendant glowed. "George, I found you." Anna raised an eyebrow and grabbed the man's hand. But just as she did, Willow walked over and pulled her hand away. With a displeased expression, she said, "Miss Sue, you've mistaken him. This is my fiancé, David." Chapter 13. Anna ignored Willow and kept her gaze fixed on David, not missing a single expression from him. She said, "I don't want her to answer. I want you to say it yourself. Who are you?" Before David could respond, Anna grabbed his arm tightly and added, "If you dare lie in front of everyone, I won't speak to you again." David furrowed his brows and said, "Who doesn't know George is dead? How could I be him? Miss Sue, if you're sick, go see a doctor. Don't act crazy here." The disgust and hatred in his eyes made Anna feel uneasy. George used to look at her with deep affection, and later, with sadness, but he had never looked at her with such a gaze. Could it be that she really had mistaken the person? Anna froze for a moment, and before she could gather her thoughts, David had already pulled his arm away from her. Willow, with a cold expression, looked at Anna and said, "Let this go this time, Miss Sue, but if you make the same mistake again and keep bothering my fiancé, don't blame me for being rude." With that, she left with David. Anna stood still staring at David's direction. Around her, whispers filled the air. Why is Miss Sue calling a dead man's name while grabbing Chairman Lou's fiancé? Miss Lou didn't lash out at her right away. Such good manners. Miss Sue has been running around calling for George, but he's dead. Maybe she's gone mad with grief. Who knows? Better stay away from someone so mentally unstable. Makoto, who had been with Anna, was both angry and jealous. "Anna, George is dead. What are you doing?" But Anna didn't pay him any attention. She shook him off, asked a server for a drink, and walked toward David. She needed to see for herself, was it the jade pendant that had made the mistake, or was he the one lying? George, should now be called David. I didn't expect that after I publicly scolded Anna, she'd come back to me again. She said, "I made a mistake earlier. Let me make it up to you, David. I'll drink a toast as an apology." Anna raised her glass. "I couldn't even bother to put on an expression," I replied. "I'm allergic to alcohol." I'd never been a pushover. Back in the day, I'd acted meek around her only because of system tasks, but now, without the system's compulsion, I didn't have to care about her, Anna said. "Then I'll drink it." "David doesn't need to drink." She drank the glass of wine in one go. Her eyes locked onto me as she said, "I want to talk to David alone. Can we have a word in private?" I smiled. Not convenient. Without a second thought, I rejected her. Without the system. Seeing Anna only annoyed me, and I didn't even want to pretend anymore. I turned and walked away. Anna hurried a few steps and blocked my path. David. Before she could finish her sentence, I pushed her away, clearly impatient. Shut up. Can't you understand what I'm saying? This isn't the place for you to chase after me. If you keep bothering me, I won't be polite. My voice was loud, and instantly, everyone turned to look at us. Willow almost ran over. She stood in front of Anna, her expression full of dissatisfaction, and said, "You're not welcome here. Please leave now." Anna had never felt so humiliated in her life, and her face turned red. She wanted to say something more, but security was already approaching, and they were about to escort her out. Anna shot me a glare before storming off. Makoto rushed after her, calling her name. When the party ended, I left with Willow. Back at the apartment, I said to Willow, "I'm sorry about today. I acted out at the party and even physically pushed a woman. Was that too rude?" In our circles, reputation mattered more than anything, but Willow simply replied, "Anna was harassing you, not the other way around. If anyone should feel embarrassed, it's her. You had every right to defend yourself." She sent me a few pictures and continued, "I've picked out 2 bodyguards for you. Here are their details. Some things you can't handle yourself, so you can leave them to them." I trusted Willow to handle these things. I asked, "Willow, you've been so good to me. I really feel undeserving of it." I didn't even look at the details, simply lowering my head to kiss her cheek. Willow, flustered and unsure whether to open or close her eyes, blushed deeply. Yet, she answered seriously, "It's only natural that I'm good to you because you're my fiancé." In the next instant, I swept her up in my arms, saying, "You're always so cold. Both your hands and feet. Don't walk around barefoot on the floor." I gently placed her on the couch, cradling her in my arms and warming her feet with my hands. Willow, the icy-cold CEO in the outside world, now appeared shy and timid. She murmured, "My feet are dirty." I looked into her avoiding eyes and, with a mischievous smile, said, "You say your feet are dirty but won't let me touch them. So, where should I touch, my Lou miss? Here, or here?" Chapter 14. My hands shifted positions repeatedly. Willow grabbed my mischievous hand. Her face flushed all the way to her neck. Stammering, she said, Do you really have to touch me?" I replied, She was usually so reserved and subtle, and couldn't stand being teased. I wasn't the type to tease people, but for some reason, I loved teasing her and watching her awkward reactions. Willow glanced at me in a panic. Seeing that I was persistent, she hesitated and finally let go of my hand, trembling as she closed her eyes. At this, I couldn't hold back a smile. I said, "Lou miss, you're so obedient. You really make me want to bully you like this." She always put on a high and aloof facade in front of others, and I didn't know she was like this privately. Willow, both shy and embarrassed, straddled my lap and grabbed my collar, angrily punching my chest. "You still say I'm easy to bully?" I laughed. "Isn't that the truth? Can't I say it?" We playfully wrestled, tangled in each other. I pinned her down and, as I saw a flash of white skin, realized just how intimate and suggestive our actions had become. Willow's eyes half lowered, her lips slightly bitten, her gaze clouded with a hint of moisture. I was burning with desire, and I asked, "Can I kiss you, Willow?" She responded, What had started as me teasing her now had me a bit distracted, my mind wavering. I cupped her face gently and kissed her. She melted into my arms with a soft moan, her pupils slightly unfocused. Her voice sent fire coursing through my veins, but the next moment, she pushed me away with weak hands and feet. Too shy to look me in the eye, she stammered, I'll go make you some hangover soup." I watched as she fled in a flurry, her steps unsteady. I couldn't help but chuckle. My Willow seems to be quite sensitive. Willow didn't return for a long time, but when she did, she had already showered. We had dinner together, and then headed back to our respective rooms. She said, "Good night, David," I replied. "Good night." I smiled as I moved to close the door, but Willow stopped it. She stood at the door, her ears pink, her bright eyes filled with a smile. She said, "David, I had a great time today." I gently brushed my fingers across her nose and responded, "So did I." Leaning down, I softly kissed her forehead. "Good night, Willow. Sweet dreams." I knew she was a reserved person, so I didn't force her to stay. After exchanging goodnights, we parted ways. Lying in bed, I couldn't suppress the smile on my lips. This was my 9th pursuit, and while I could switch targets, I couldn't specify who it would be. At first, I was worried I might run into someone like Anna again, but when I resurrected and saw that my target was Willow, I breathed a sigh of relief. The first time I pursued Anna, I died in an earthquake. That earthquake had Liu Corporation donate $200 million for post-disaster reconstruction. Willow, the Liu family's daughter and captain of the rescue team, had led the team to the disaster area. It was she who personally dragged my body out. The second time I pursued Anna, she was angry at Makoto and left me alone on a snow-covered mountain. Willow happened to be skiing there. She didn't know me, but she still took the initiative to offer me a ride. The third time I pursued Anna, Makoto fought me for control of the car, causing an accident. Anna rushed over, and Makoto lied, saying I had hurt him. She was angry at me, helped the barely injured Makoto to the hospital, and left me, badly injured, behind. It was Willow, passing by, who risked her life to pull me out of the car before it exploded, urgently taking me to the hospital. But unfortunately, I had been delayed too long. On the way, I bled out and died. Chapter 15. In the following few pursuit missions, Willow had helped me to varying degrees. It wasn't about romantic love, but because she was just a genuinely good person. The system also spoke to me. We select hosts for pursuit tasks to compensate for the regrets they had in their previous lives, giving them a second chance at life. The targets we choose are all exceptional individuals in various aspects. It's just that Anna usually behaves so well. We didn't anticipate that after she realized you were approaching her due to the system task, she would react so extreme. This was a mistake on my part, and I've already requested compensation from the main system. Additionally, after assessing Willow, she is an ideal pursuit target. She has excellent character, and even if you fail to pursue her, she won't cause you any harm. I had thought the same, and thankfully, Willow seemed to have a pretty good impression of me. Of course, I also had feelings for her. The next morning, after breakfast with Willow, we went to the company together. I hurriedly got out of the car and rushed toward the building. Willow, helpless, stopped me, saying, "David, you don't need to work so hard. Work and rest should be balanced." I replied, "I'm not tired. After all, I'm the design director. I can't lead by slacking off." She frowned. "Who would say you're slacking?" Willow usually wasn't very talkative, but whenever she praised me, she did so with pride. Gesturing as she spoke, she said, "You just joined, and already you've presented 2 complete car designs. The whole design department is praising you." Several of the shareholders and executives asked me where I found such a genius. I pinched her cheek and said, "If I weren't this excellent, how could I possibly match the little Lou chairman?" Willow stood on her tiptoes and kissed the corner of my lips, saying, "You're already very, very excellent." Before she finished, a few executives came over, laughing and teasing us. "Chairman Lou, Chairman Chan, you two continue. We'll leave now. Quickly, let's go before the little couple gets embarrassed." Willow and I, both a little embarrassed from their teasing, quickly separated. Willow turned back to the car and took out a black card and a gift box. She said, "This black card is a supplementary card for you, and I bought this Mercedes after seeing it and thinking you'd like it. Here's the car key." She handed it to me as casually as if she were talking about the weather. I opened it and saw the luxury sports car that had made the news. Shocked, I asked, "Isn't this too extravagant?" "The Mercedes-Benz 300 SLR, nearly $1 billion. Willow blinked and said, "If you like it, it has value. If you don't, we can return it and buy something else." I stuttered, Thank you, I really like it." I lowered my head, gently pinching her chin, and kissed her several times. Willow's face turned red again, and she seemed a little distracted all the way into the company. I was in a great mood as I went to the design department. The employees greeted me. "Good morning, Director." "Good morning, Chairman Chan." The designers all smiled and greeted me. I smiled and nodded to them, ordered coffee, and waited for everyone to gather before saying, "Tonight, if you're free, let's have dinner at Chuani Pavilion. It's on me." As a treat for everyone, a cheer rose from the crowd. "Chuani Pavilion is so expensive. I usually wouldn't dare eat there." "Thank you, Chairman Chan." "Chairman Chan, I love you." I saw how happy they were, and I couldn't help but feel cheerful as I returned to my office to continue working on design plans. For the 4 years I pursued Anna, I was constantly sidelined and ridiculed, but in my previous life, before I died, I was a genius designer with great relationships. Now, I didn't have to act like a simp for Anna anymore, being put down by her, and I was back in a comfortable, flowing state. The next week passed without me running into Anna. She was very concerned with face, and I thought that after the embarrassment at the party, she wouldn't come looking for me again. However, on this particular day, Willow had a business trip and didn't come back home with me. I was about to leave work and head home when Anna blocked me in the parking garage. "George." Anna rushed over and grabbed my wrist. I impatiently shook her off, saying, "I already told you a week ago. Miss Sue, you've got the wrong person. Are you suffering from dementia or something?" Just seeing her made me remember those 4 years of humiliation. Filled with hatred and anger, Anna furrowed her brows, holding back her anger. She took out a jade pendant from around her neck and said, "Stop lying. The jade pendant lit up when it saw you. And I've been observing you this week. You like going to that tea bar in the west of the city. You go to the basketball court when you need to release some pressure. You like light food. You're allergic to peanuts. And you're a lefty. Don't tell me these are just coincidences. Chapter 16. I looked at her with an emotionless face and said, so what if you're right? Seeing me admit it, Anna bit her lip and said, do you still have the nerve to ask me that? You're my boyfriend. How could you go and become Willow's fiancé? How far have you two gone? You wouldn't possibly. I interrupted her. Enough, Anna. Stop making a scene. Who the hell is your boyfriend? Who I'm with has nothing to do with you. If you keep acting crazy, don't blame me for slapping you. I couldn't take it anymore, so I turned and walked away. Anna rushed to grab me, but I slapped her across the face and then called for my bodyguards. Bang. The bodyguards immediately pinned Anna to the ground. Anna had never been in such an embarrassing situation. Her beautiful face turned red with anger. George, David, are you crazy? How dare you do this to me? Don't you fear that I'll never speak to you again? I waved the bodyguards away and stepped forward, looking down at Anna coldly. I smirked. Too bad. I've changed my pursuit target this time, and your threats won't work on me anymore. Anna sneered. I don't believe it. If you could change your target, you would have already. You didn't come looking for me this time, and now you're engaged to Willow. You just want to play hard to get, don't you? I laughed. Believe it or not, don't come chasing me again, or don't blame me for being rude. She was so self-centered, I couldn't be bothered with her and got in the car. As the car drove away, I intentionally sprayed Anna with exhaust fumes. In the past 4 years, Anna had never seen George behave this way. She was a little flustered. Could it be true? Had he really changed his pursuit target this time? As soon as the thought appeared in Anna's mind, she pushed it away. She thought, like I said earlier, if George could change his pursuit target, he would have already. He's just trying to scare me. With the pursuit time being 6 months, he's probably just using Willow to provoke me, just like I used Makoto to provoke him. Before the deadline, he'll definitely come back and beg me to forgive him. The tactic of playing hard to get was a tired one, but she couldn't deny. George ignoring her and becoming Willow's fiancé was something she couldn't tolerate. Anna patted the dust off her clothes. Forget it. She wouldn't test if he loved her this time. She'd just let him be her boyfriend. She wasn't getting any younger. It was time to get married and have children. By the time I got home, Anna had already followed me. She said, George, break up with Willow and come back to me. I'll let you be my boyfriend this time. Even marriage is fine. Isn't that enough? I couldn't help but laugh in anger and said, Willow respects me, likes me, and treats me well. I'm not an idiot. Why would I break up with her to be with you? She furrowed her brows and said, don't forget, your pursuit target is me. If you're with someone else, don't you fear that my favorability will drop to negative? You'll be left to suffer and die in misery, won't you? At her words, a wave of pain shot through me. I gritted my teeth and said, so you know, the lower your favorability goes, the more painful my death will be. Huh? Anna was so stubborn. She said, you deceived my feelings and didn't know what was good for you. Running around with other women. I shouted. Shut up, Anna. You're shameless. How dare you lecture me? I couldn't take it anymore. I grabbed her by the neck, so furious that I felt like I might just kill her right then and there. I had pursued her through 8 lifetimes. She had never accepted me and had constantly humiliated me. What did she think I was? Just a loyal lapdog who could only bow to her. I saw her struggling for breath and, holding back my anger, threw her to the ground. Anna clutched her swollen neck. Her face flushed as she asked, I'll ask you one more time. Will you come back to me? Chapter 17. I said each word with emphasis. I won't come back. If it weren't for the system task, you wouldn't even deserve a second glance from me. She bit her lip and said, George, remember what you said. Before the 6-month deadline is up, you'd better not come crying to me. I didn't even want to respond. I just slammed the door and called the doorman. I said, send a few security guards to take Anna away. Don't let any scum like her into my place again. I don't want to see her at my door anymore. Anna was escorted away by the guards, fuming as she sent me numerous messages. In summary, they all just repeated her desperate pleas to stop playing hard to get. I glanced through them and replied, waiting for me to come back within 6 months. Wait all you want. You'll never see that happen. After sending the message, I blocked her, once again feeling relieved. Thank goodness I changed my pursuit target this time. Otherwise, I don't know how much more I would have had to endure. I was determined to sever all ties with Anna. However, the next evening at the charity gala, I ran into both Makoto and Anna. While Anna was chatting with others, Makoto came up to me. He looked me up and down like I was some object, nearly boiling with rage. He said, has Anna taken a liking to you again? What gives you the right? I coldly glanced at him and said, don't come near me with your nonsense. Not everyone treats Anna like a treasure the way you do. Makoto's face twisted with anger. Do you really think I'll believe this nonsense? I frowned and replied, believe it or not, It's none of my business. I tried to walk past him. But Makoto grabbed me again. He stood in front of me and said, "Why can't you people just let go of Anna? One dies, and another comes to take their place. Don't you know Anna likes me? Especially you scumbag." Clearly engaged to Willow yet still chasing after other women. Makoto spat out filthy words. My face darkened. Before I could even speak, Makoto collapsed to the ground, spilling wine all over himself. He screamed, "David, why did you suddenly hit me and pour wine on me? What did I do wrong?" Makoto's shouting attracted everyone's attention. Before I could reply, Anna quickly ran over. She helped Makoto up and shot me a furious look. She said, "Enough, David. How dare you treat Makoto like this? Just because you're Willow's fiancé now. Do you think you can bully Makoto?" This scene felt all too familiar. Last time, I was desperately trying to explain. This time, I let out a cold laugh, picked up a bottle of beer from the table, and walked over to Makoto, pouring it over his head. "Ah!" Makoto screamed. "Anna, he's gone mad." Anna's face turned pale with fury. She pushed me away and yelled, "David, what are you doing?" I grinned. Makoto said I hit him and poured wine on him, so I had to make sure those accusations were true. The next second, I grabbed his collar and punched him square in the face. Makoto was stunned, standing up and holding his face in disbelief. "See, he's violent." Anna grabbed his hand, glaring at me, and ordered, "David, apologize to Makoto." Now, I looked at her coldly and asked, "One thing I don't get. How can you be so sure I've ever bullied him?" Without thinking, she immediately replied, "If you didn't bully Makoto, then who else could it be? Are you saying he's lying? I'll say this one last time, apologize to Makoto, or you can forget about ever coming back to me," I retorted. "To hell with you. Anna, you're so capable. Why don't you go on and act tough in front of the police?" Makoto hired 6 people to kidnap George, leading to his death by suicide. The police already have crucial evidence. The bracelet had been destroyed, but there were still the cloud storage recordings. I had been busy pursuing Willow for the past month, and hadn't gotten around to dealing with Makoto. But seeing him here tonight, I called the police right away, and I made sure the evidence was sent to the police immediately. Anna's face went pale. She said, "You're talking nonsense. George brought those shady people on himself. What does that have to do with Makoto?" This time, I didn't even have to respond. A group of police officers came in and immediately took Makoto away. Chapter 18. The guests at the scene were holding up their phones, recording videos, all in shock. Someone said, "This Ito young master usually looks so gentle and refined. How could he do something like this? How could he not?" Before, he and Miss Sue forced one of her suitors to jump into a fire to save a dog, and that person died on the spot. Finally, he's been caught. Before, Makoto bullied George, and Miss Sue sided with him. Yet, George, the victim, still had to apologize. Where could he go to seek justice? Others said, Makoto's bullied George so many times, but who dared speak out? They were all afraid of ending up like George's people, targeted by him and Miss Sue until death. Makoto, surrounded by people's whispers, didn't even dare raise his head. He just nervously looked at Anna, trying to explain. "Anna, I didn't do it." When the police took Makoto away, Anna couldn't stop them, only shooting me a furious glare before following them. Not long after the police left, Willow rushed over in a panic. By the time she reached me, she was still catching her breath. She said, "Did Anna and Makoto come to harass you again?" She rarely looked this upset. I nodded. "Yeah. Weren't you on a business trip? How did you come back so quickly?" She had been on a business trip abroad, and the flight alone took 11 hours. She must have landed and rushed straight back. Willow was clearly distressed. She said, "I heard they were harassing you, and I couldn't rest." "Let me see. Did they hurt you?" I replied. "I'm fine. It's just that Makoto said I hit him." "Willow, aren't you afraid I'm lying?" She said. "You're my fiancé. Why would I doubt you for an outsider? Besides, I trust your character. You wouldn't do something like that." Hearing that, I completely relaxed, warmth spreading through me. The feeling of being trusted felt so good. As the one who reported the incident, I needed to go to the police station to sign some papers. Willow, still worried, insisted on accompanying me. By now, Makoto had been locked up. Only Anna was left in the lobby, looking devastated and dazed. When she saw me, her face darkened, and she charged toward me, but Willow blocked her way and asked, "Miss Sue, what do you want?" I didn't need a woman to protect me, but I had to admit, it felt pretty good to be shielded by my own woman. I stood behind Willow and let her handle things. Anna said, "This isn't Lou's business. I need to talk to David. Move aside." Anna tried to push her aside, but couldn't budge. She shouted at me, "David, I didn't know before that Makoto hired people to commit violence, but he did it because George kept targeting him. He just wanted to give George a small lesson. Makoto's wrong, but he doesn't deserve prison. Why did you call the police to arrest him?" Even now, she still thought Makoto was innocent. I was furious, and I didn't care whether we were in a police station or not. I just wanted to slap her noisy mouth shut. But before Anna could say more, Willow slapped her hard across the face. Hands on her hips, she said, "Are you addicted to harassing my fiancé?" Anna bit her lip and said, "Willow, you don't even know what's going on. Why are you making things worse?" Anna wiped the blood from the corner of her mouth, furious, and reached out to slap Willow. I stepped forward, blocking her and pushing her away. Seeing me protect someone else, Anna was in disbelief, her heart full of sorrow, but I didn't even look at her. I stood beside Willow. Willow took a step forward and slapped Anna across the face again. She said, "I don't care how you've bullied others before, but harassing me in front of my eyes, and targeting my fiancé, you really think I'm just decoration?" The scene became chaotic, but the two women didn't get to fight. As the police stopped them, I didn't want to bother with Anna. After signing the papers, I grabbed Willow and left. "David, wait, I haven't given you permission to leave." Anna chased after us, but the bodyguards stopped her. I didn't look back as I got into the car. Willow lowered the car window, her gaze icy as she said, "We're leaving. Do we need your permission?" "Anna, do you really think you're a princess? We won't let this go," I said. "Don't waste time with her." I told the driver, "Drive." If Anna had any sense, I wouldn't have suffered so much over the past 4 years. As the car started, Willow grabbed my hand, her voice trembling. "Don't worry, David, I won't let her off." I hesitated, "But what if Anna comes to you, telling you a bunch of not so good things about me? Will you still stand by me?" I was worried that Anna might reveal the system task to Willow, and that she might think my intentions weren't pure and dislike me. Willow, however, didn't seem to care. "If I'm going to doubt you or treat you badly just because of some gossip, then I'm not worthy of being your fiancé." "Thank you, Willow." I hugged her. "There's a lot of personal history between me and Anna. In the future, don't get involved. I'll handle it myself." She nodded. "Okay." Willow didn't pry into the specifics of our history. Everyone has their own secrets, and that's perfectly fine. She just snuggled into my arms and softly said, "If there's something you can't handle, you can always come to me." Back at home, I immediately contacted the biggest media outlets in the country. I sent them Anna's scandal, as well as some information about the Su family's car design flaws. Chapter 19. Within an hour, Anna and the Su family were trending on social media. Hashtag Anna forced 8 suitors to death. Hashtag Anna tolerated Makoto's violence. Hashtag Su family car design has major flaws. Netizens were in a frenzy. Oh my god. Forcing someone to jump into a fire to save a dog. Watching them burn to death. At a car accident site in the suburbs. Leaving the severely injured person there to die. Isn't this just the same as letting them die? Makoto hired people to kidnap the victim, leaving them with no way out, forcing them to jump to their death, and Anna still blames the victim. Screw that. Stole her suitor's car design and gave it to her lover Makoto. Anna is really shameless. Su's company still sells cars with such serious problems. Return the car. Su's PR team stepped in immediately, but the issues were too severe to be swept under the rug with a few apologies. That same day, Su's stock plummeted. The company hastily convened a shareholder meeting, demanding Anna's expulsion. No matter how much she clung to her power, it was futile. Because of her scandal, the Su family's market value and stock price had dropped significantly, and the cars sold over the past years had to be recalled at full price. The losses Anna caused to the Su family were incalculable. Even Su's father, the chairman, couldn't protect her this time. Anna was officially expelled from Su's group. As she walked out, employees and passers-by stared and whispered, "That's her, the one who caused several suitors to die. Ugh, it's almost the new year, and now this. All our year-end bonuses are gone because of her. Rich people really don't value ordinary lives. George is dead, and she still defends her lover. What a piece of work." Anna, more embarrassed than ever, tried to scold a few of them, but she couldn't silence everyone. She hadn't even handled Makoto's issues, and now this disaster had occurred. Anna was boiling with rage. As soon as she arrived back at her place, she angrily dialed David's number, but again and again, she only heard the busy signal. "David, how dare you block me?" Anna was both shocked and furious. Not only did he get engaged to Willow to provoke her, but he had also blocked her and exposed her secrets. Didn't he fear that she'd never speak to him again? At that moment, Alicia, who was concerned, came to check on her. Alicia asked, "Anna, are you all right?" Anna didn't have the mood to answer her. She grabbed Alicia's phone and angrily dialed David again, but he still didn't pick up. So, she decided to go straight to Lou's group to confront him. Alicia, worried, followed her. I had already anticipated that Anna would come looking for me when I contacted the media. I didn't want her running around making a scene, so I had her brought into my office, but I left Alicia outside. Anna slammed her hands onto my desk, hysterically yelling, "David, who gave you the courage to send that information to the media? How dare you?" I replied coolly, "What's the problem? It's all true. I didn't fabricate anything." Anna gritted her teeth. "How can you say that? The designs you gave the company were problematic. Now the company has to recall nearly all the new cars sold in the past 3 years to save face. Do you realize how much this will cost the company?" By the end, she was practically screaming. She thought to herself, how could he do this to her after deceiving her feelings? All the terrible things he's done. She had been kind to him, and now he deserved every bit of this. Anna thought that her anger would make me panic and rush to explain myself, but instead, I gave a faint, mocking smile. I stood up, slammed a pile of documents onto her head, and shoved a tablet playing a video into her arms. I said, "Open your eyes and take a good look. See if I've ever wronged your precious Makoto." The documents scattered across the floor. The video started playing. Anna's face paled, and she tried to shout in anger. But when she saw the papers and the video, she froze. Makoto had once forced me to jump into a lake to retrieve a watch, claiming it was his mother's heirloom, but it was just a cheap piece he bought for $9.99 from a discount site. At the birthday banquet, it was he who threw away the pair of rings my mother had left me, and then pretended to trip and fall, and the car accident from a year ago was due to Makoto fighting for the steering wheel. Not anyone else's fault. Everything was clear. It was all Makoto's twisted version of events. Chapter 20. Anna grew up with Makoto. In her memories, he was always the kind-hearted, easygoing older brother who was constantly bullied. So when he said George had mistreated him, Anna believed him every single time, but she never imagined that it was Makoto who had been deceiving her all along. No wonder David, who was supposed to be her target, ended up getting pushed away. No matter how hard she tried to win him over, he had always been driven away by her coldness. In the end, it was Makoto who forced him into such a miserable situation. And yet, Anna never stopped to question any of it. Had she even tried to check the surveillance footage or asked a few more questions, she could have uncovered the truth, but instead, she was too busy punishing David, convinced that everything was his fault. The sudden truth hit Anna like a bomb. Her mind went blank, and she felt as if her whole worldview was crashing down. She didn't know what to say or what to do. Holding the tablet and clutching the evidence, her face turned as white as a sheet. David, not expecting an apology from her, sneered, "Have you finished watching? Don't you ever try to threaten me with whether or not I'll see you again. I'd rather you never bothered me again. You disgust me." Anna had never faced such a response from him before. She didn't even know how to respond. Before she could say anything more, David called his bodyguards. Escort her out. Anna was nearly kicked out of the office, and when she tried to apologize, the door was already closed. Willow came out specially to warn her. "Miss Sue, if you keep harassing my fiancé, are you looking for trouble?" Anna, hearing the words, "your fiancé," felt a sharp pang in her chest. David had always been hers. If it wasn't for Makoto deceiving her and making her hurt him, there was no way Willow would have had the chance to get engaged to him. But Anna didn't finish her sentence. Alicia covered her mouth and said, "Sorry, Miss Lou. Anna's just under too much stress." Willow frowned. "Next time, Miss Sue, think about the consequences before you act." With that, she turned and left. Anna shoved Alicia's hand off her mouth and snapped, "What are you doing?" Alicia replied, "Anna, David and you have never been on good terms. Why do you keep bothering him? To be blunt, if I were Lou's chairman, I wouldn't let anyone harass my fiancé." Anna couldn't explain it all to Alicia. She was frustrated and said, "You don't get it. In less than 5 months, David will break up with her and be with me." At that moment, Anna felt a strange sense of relief that David had the system to keep him tied to her. If not, she feared he would have lost hope and left her by now. Alicia hesitated for a moment, then asked, "Are you under too much pressure lately? Maybe you should see a psychologist." She almost seemed like she wanted to point at Anna and ask if she had lost her mind. Anna, furious and unwilling to deal with her, got into her car and left. Now that she had learned the truth about the past 4 years, she wanted to apologize to David, but she couldn't find him. But she could find Makoto, the one who was really to blame. Anna was filled with a mixture of shock, anger, guilt, and regret. These overwhelming emotions seemed like they were about to burst out of her chest. If she didn't do something, she felt like she would explode. Makoto's case hadn't gone to trial yet, and he hadn't been transferred to the detention center. Technically, only the lawyer she hired should be able to visit him. But Anna didn't care. She used some connections and went to the detention center to see him through the bars. Makoto, with his eyes swollen from crying, looked up at her, his eyes lighting up. "Anna, are you here to save me?" Anna grimaced. "Don't call me that. It disgusts me." "Makoto, haven't I been good to you all these years? Why have you lied to me and made a fool of me?" "Anna, what are you talking about? Stop acting. I know everything you've done." Anna pulled out the evidence, Speaking slowly, the Wan family has already broken off the engagement with you. The Su family will also announce that you have no more connection with us. Also, all the gifts I gave you, the villa, the sports car, everything, will be reclaimed. You won't be able to hire a good lawyer this time. Prepare to rot in prison. Even when you get out, I won't let you go. Anna couldn't stand being deceived. She could barely tolerate David getting close to her because of his system task, and now, knowing what Makoto had done, she could hardly resist the urge to kill him. Chapter 21. Every word Anna spoke made Makoto's face grow whiter. By the end, he was trembling so violently that he could barely breathe. Anna, you can't do this to me. I only loved you so much. Anna coldly replied. If you loved me, why did you lie to me? If you loved me, why did you go on blind dates? Makoto tried to defend himself. I had no choice. I was raised by the Su family. If I tried to date you, your parents would hate me, and you never liked me. If I had pursued you, I would have had no way out. In the past, whenever Makoto's eyes turned red, Anna would feel a deep pain in her heart. But now, seeing him cry, snot and tears covering his face, the only feeling she had was disgust. Her face turned pale as she interrupted him. Stop making excuses. How did I not notice how hypocritical and selfish you are? You want everything but end up losing everything. You've lost your reputation, your wife, your wealth. When you're released from prison, you'll be destitute, and don't even think you'll have it easy in prison. With those harsh words, Anna turned and walked out. Behind her, Makoto screamed and cried in desperation, his voice growing hoarse, but she didn't even glance back. Anna rushed home, trying to figure out how to apologize to David. He had the system and couldn't leave her, but this time, she had messed up too badly. She knew she had to show at least some remorse, or she would lose him forever. David's place. I received several calls from unfamiliar numbers, but I ignored them. I guessed it was Anna. I decided to block all unknown calls. However, over the next month, Anna kept sending me local deliveries. Sometimes, it was old photos of us. Other times it was gifts I had given her. Each package always included a handwritten note from her. The notes read, I was wrong before. I regret everything. Please come back. I want to marry you and have children, and spend the rest of my life with you. I'm sorry for punishing you the way I did. Now, those punishments have become my nightmares. I never told you this, but I've always loved you. I was angry because I thought you were only close to me because of the system. I felt betrayed. I never loved Makoto. I only used him to make you jealous. It was clear Anna was truly regretful, truly realizing her mistakes. She wouldn't be so humble and apologetic if she didn't mean it. I removed her from my blacklist and called her back. Anna answered, her voice trembling with excitement. Are you going to forgive me? I'll come pick you up right now. Anna, I'm calling to tell you something. We're over. I'm engaged to Willow, and I'm going to marry her. Anna panicked. You're still angry. You're just lying to me, right? You're supposed to be pursuing me. I replied impatiently. Not anymore. Please don't contact me again. If you keep doing this, you will regret it. At this point, Anna had been practically thrown out of the Su family, and her scandal was all over the place. If she was willing to let go, I could consider us even, but Anna was never one to give up easily. She replied. You can't just change your target like that. You're saying that out of anger. I'll show you my sincerity. I didn't know how to love before, but I do now. I'll change. I swear. If you'll just take me back. By the end, she was almost begging. Anna was always like this, lost in her own world, never caring about how others felt. I didn't want to waste any more time with her. I hung up. Honestly, in just 4 months, even if I did nothing, Anna would realize that I had truly moved on. But after that phone call, Anna didn't stop. She followed me everywhere and even tried to go to Willow and spread rumors. I was running out of patience. I called out to the system. System, you said the compensation from the main system is ready, right? Can it grant me one wish? Yes, host, I continued. Then give Anna the pursuit system. Let her go after the second young master of the Bai family. Make sure every time she tries, she's given a tough background, but always with a beautiful face. The second young master of the Bai family was short, ugly, and fat, but he loved beautiful women, was abusive, and was incredibly fickle. Pursuing him would definitely be a torturous experience for her. I thought, it's time for Anna to experience what I went through these past 4 years. Only then would she understand that I can never forgive her. The system repeated my wish and then said, do you confirm your wish, host? I responded. Confirm. Submit. Chapter 22. Just as I finished speaking, Willow walked in through the door. She was surprised and asked, what's got you so happy? I smiled and replied, just thinking about how lucky I am to have someone as wonderful as you as my fiancé. I meant it. Every time Anna acted worse, I felt more and more grateful to have met Willow, a person so kind and considerate. Willow hugged me. Her eyes filled with joy. She said, I'm happy to have met you too. Tonight, We have a friend's welcome back party. Would you like to go with me? Sure. I went to the closet to pick out my clothes. I chose a black suit, but just as I was about to change, Willow stopped me. I looked at her, puzzled. She bit her lip and said, I don't have a black dress that goes well with it. I was surprised, then smiled and teased. Miss Lou, are you suggesting we wear matching outfits? Willow's ears turned pink at my comment. She hugged me and, in a slightly coquettish tone, asked, Is that okay? It would be my honor. I finally chose a deep blue suit and we headed to her friend's welcome back party together. At the party, her friends playfully teased. Willow's in her first relationship, this is huge. Haha. It's my first time seeing Willow wear matching outfits with someone. Looks like Willow is subtly claiming her territory, in case anyone missed the fact that her fiancé is right here. Willow didn't deny any of their teasing, just smiled and kept her arm linked with mine. After they had finished teasing her, they all greeted me and complimented my design and taste. Willow's friends were just like her, thoughtful and measured in their words and actions. Because Willow respected and cared for me, her friends treated me with great warmth as well. I quickly bonded with them and exchanged contact information with several of them. Halfway through the evening, the sound of fireworks echoed through the air. Colorful bursts of fireworks exploded right outside the floor we were on, creating a beautiful, dreamlike scene. Everyone stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows with their drinks in hand, watching the fireworks. I was so caught up in the moment that I didn't even realize I had been pushed to the front of the crowd. When the fireworks ended and I turned around, I saw Willow, who had somehow changed into a white evening gown. She lifted the hem of her dress and gently asked, David, will you marry me? The Liu and Chan families had already arranged the engagement party. I had planned to propose to Willow, but it seemed she had beaten me to it. I smiled and nodded, pulling her into my arms and slipping the engagement ring I had prepared for her onto her finger. Amidst the cheering and laughter, I lowered my head and kissed her. Willow was ecstatic and had drunk quite a bit. As we were leaving, she was stumbling a little, unable to walk steadily. I sighed softly, bent down to take off her high heels, then lifted her up, bidding farewell to everyone as I carried her downstairs and placed her into the car. Even after we got home, I felt a surreal sense of unreality. I kept glancing at her, and she kept holding onto me tightly. Without a word, we exchanged a glance, and the affection between us seemed to turn into a tangible force, enveloping the space around us. I carried Willow upstairs and into the bathroom. I said, Willow, the new year is coming, and Auntie's taking a break. I won't be able to help you wash up. Go ahead and do it yourself. I'll be waiting outside. If you need anything, just call me. Her soft body in my arms made my mind race. My eyes reddened slightly, but I restrained myself, not looking at what I shouldn't, not doing what I shouldn't. She had been so good to me, and I respected her. But just as I was about to close the door, Willow grabbed my arm. Her voice was sweet and indulgent as she said, David, let's do it together. You're drunk. I'm perfectly sober. Willow didn't give me a chance to argue further. She wrapped her arms around my shoulders and kissed me. We stumbled into the bathroom together. The shower head was knocked loose, and water poured down, soaking our clothes. I was already on edge, veins popping on my hands. Yet I still hesitated and asked her again, Willow, are you sure? Yes. I no longer held back. In the heat of the moment, I heard the system's notification sound in my mind. Ding! Congratulations to the host on completing the pursuit successfully. The system will now disengage. Wishing the host a peaceful and joyful life ahead. Anna. Side story. Anna had always believed that as long as she had the system, she could still win David back, even if she was wrong. But everything changed the moment she was bound to a new system. Her target, Lucas, who didn't know that Lucas was a notorious, violent, and promiscuous young master who enjoyed tormenting women. Anna despised that kind of person to her core. There was no way she would ever go after someone like him. She was nothing like David. She wouldn't submit, and no one could force her to, not even the system. If it came down to it, she was ready to let the mission fail and die. But reality hit hard. When Lucas harassed her and she rejected him, his favorability dropped to negative. The moment the system was bound to her, she felt the pain, an excruciating sensation that left her writhing on the floor. Anna had to go to the hospital and take painkillers, but nothing worked to ease the torment. She couldn't take it anymore. In desperation, she went to find Lucas, but the moment she saw his lecherous face, she couldn't hold it in and threw up. Anna could no longer bear the pain. She didn't want to be sullied by Lucas, and she couldn't stand the extreme agony. In that moment, she only thought of one thing, killing Lucas. If Lucas was dead, the mission would end, but the system wouldn't allow it. It prohibited the host from directly or indirectly killing the target. With no other way out, Anna tried to end it all. Suicide seemed the only way to escape, but when she died, she was resurrected. Anna no longer had the courage to take her own life a second time. Instead, she reluctantly went back to Lucas. It was then that she realized what it was like to be someone's, a simp, to be humiliated and manipulated. The pain and suffering were unbearable, yet she had no choice but to endure it, all while continuing to please that person. And what about David? In the 4 years he was by her side, had he felt this way too? Anna felt a pang of regret. She regretted how she treated David, when she learned that it was David's doing, forcing her to pursue Lucas. She couldn't even bring herself to hate him. She had been the one who went too far. On the day David married Willow, Makoto was sentenced to 13 years in prison. Anna, having failed the mission, would be erased that same day for the first time. Before she died, she went to see David one last time. She said, "Everything was my fault. I know that even if I love you, saying sorry, saying it was an accident, it doesn't matter anymore. For the rest of my life, I will live in regret. I won't bother you again. Can you help me disconnect from the system?" David only looked at her indifferently and said, "I don't have the authority to disconnect you." With those words, Anna's fate was sealed. From then on, she would live in eternal pain, pursuing Lucas, failing repeatedly until his death.